What is up, you guys? Welcome back to HBH Podcast, and today I'm going to be talking about Terrifier 2. I did get to witness this movie in the theaters, and I felt like I had to talk about it. I've seen it like 3 weeks ago, and I was like, this would be a good podcast is to talk about Terrifier 2, because, you know, the whole horror community is talking about Terrifier 2 right now, and it's well-deserved. I mean, this movie should be talked about. It's an independent B-horror movie that has done really well. It's made like over $8 million in the box office, and it has like a $200,000 budget. So it's doing really well, and I'm glad to see that because, you know, I want to see independent horror movies do really good. And don't quote me on the whole budget thing. I'm not sure if it was $200,000, but it definitely wasn't even $1 million. So with this movie making, I think, over $8 million at this point, or about $8 million, that's a huge deal for independent horror films. You know, I hope we get a Terrifier 3. You know, Damien Leone was already teasing that before Terrifier 2 was even released, so we're most likely going to get that. I think now, with the amount of money that Terrifier 2 made, it's almost a guarantee that we're probably going to get Terrifier 3. We all want more Art the Clown. I'm going to say this, I know some people are going to disagree, but I definitely think Art the Clown is a modern-day horror icon. I mean, he's really the only icon of this generation. Who does Art have to go against? I mean, nobody. I mean, Art the Clown is pretty much the biggest deal right now. Even when the first movie came out, I mean, you would see Art the Clown everywhere. If you followed horror pages on Instagram or Facebook, wherever, you would see Art the Clown almost all the time. I'm not saying that Art is like global, but he's definitely a modern-day horror icon. I'm already giving him that crown. I gave it to him even with just the first movie. And you know we're going to get a Terrifier 3, so he's just going to keep getting more and more popular. And of course you can argue that Terrifier 2 is better than the first one, so he's getting even bigger now than he was when the first movie came out. So I definitely think he deserves that crown of a horror icon. I mean, you see artworks of like Michael and Jason and Freddy, and sometimes you'll see Art the Clown on those artworks as well, so people are already putting him up there with those icons. Alright, so let me go ahead and get into this review/spoiler discussion. So if you guys have not yet seen Terrifier 2, I don't recommend listening to this right now. But let me just say something about the first movie. Everyone's biggest complaint with the first Terrifier movie was there was no plot. It wasn't story heavy. There really wasn't any story at all. You were just there to see Art the Clown kill people. And Terrifier 2 is pretty much the same thing. It's a little more story-driven, character-driven than the first one because of Sienna and her brother Jonathan. But ultimately, Terrifier 2 is still pretty much just Art the Clown killing people. But that's what we sign up for. You know, I don't understand that complaint too much. I mean, I think Damien delivered more on a story and character-driven characters with Terrifier 2, so I don't know what everyone is complaining about. I know some people also say that Terrifier 2 is way too long. I don't really agree with that. I think the runtime is perfect. I mean, the movie goes by so quick. It does not feel like a 2.5-hour movie. Yes, this movie is 2.5 hours, and it doesn't even feel like it is. That's how good the movie is. I think the pacing of the movie is really good. And Damien wanted to deliver on more character-driven characters for this one because he heard the complaints that the first one got. You know, we thought Tara was going to end up being our final girl in the first Terrifier movie, but she ended up getting killed. It was a twist. And then at the end, we had her sister Victoria show up, and something bad happened to her as well. You know, her face got pretty much eaten by Art the Clown. But she didn't die, because she does have a cameo in Terrifier 2, which I'm sure they're building her up for Terrifier 3, so I'm excited for that. But yeah, the original Terrifier did not really have a final girl. It wasn't really... It was focused on Tara and Dawn, but then again, you know, with him killing Tara, she ended up not being a final girl, so... And I think that's really what he was going for, of course. He wanted us to be surprised by that. He wanted us to think that Tara was going to be the final girl, and she ended up not being the final girl. I think that was a great twist. But in Terrifier 2, we do have a main girl, a final girl. Her name is Sienna, played by Lauren Lavera, I believe. I think I'm saying her last name right. She's fantastic. She is a really good character, a really good final girl. I hope that she returns in Terrifier 3. She didn't die in Terrifier 2, so she could definitely return. So could her brother Jonathan, played by Elliot Fulham. I think that's how you say his last name as well. I could be wrong. I'm kind of just going off the top here talking. But they were both really good. David Howard Thornton as Art the Clown, fantastic again. I mean, don't get anyone else to play Art again. David Howard Thornton was made for this role, and I don't think he would ever step down from playing Art the Clown. I think if we got a Terrifier 6, David Howard Thornton would still play Art. So he's great. And let me just say, you guys cannot sleep on Damien Leone, not just as a director, but as a special makeup effects artist. Like, look at what he's doing. It's so 80s. It's so Tom Savini. It's so Christopher Nelson. It's so Greg Nicotero. It's so good. I love his makeup effects in both of the Terrifier movies. So do not sleep on Damien Leone. Such a talented guy, and a good director. He really is a good director. Good writer. I mean, he created a horror icon. I really feel Art is a horror icon. So hat off to Damien Leone. Uh, Really happy with the movie. Again, Terrifier 2 is not story driven as much as you would think. You know, it's kind of more of the same of Terrifier 1. It's just Art killing people in brutal ways, which is always fun. But this one is definitely a step above the first movie, and that's actually why I like Terrifier 2 more. I think Terrifier 2 is a better movie than the original. I still love the original Terrifier, but I think Terrifier 2 is definitely the better movie. And let's talk about Art's new friend in Terrifier 2, the little girl. I'm not sure the actress's name, but that was a really cool touch to this movie. Different for sure. This movie did a lot of things different, things that I didn't expect, and I love that about Terrifier 2 because at least it's not the same as Terrifier 1. I do think that Terrifier 2 is more of the same because, again, it's not really story heavy. I mean, you're more invested in the characters in Terrifier 2 than you are in Terrifier 1, so that's definitely something to take away from Terrifier 2. But yeah, there's a lot of different things. You know, bringing in that new character, the little girl, was really cool, really different. I hope that she's back in Terrifier 3. I'm sure she will be as well, because, yeah, just a wild character. Again, I think even saving Victoria just for that mid-credit scene was perfect because he's setting it up for Terrifier 3. And we all know Victoria from the first movie. Us fans, of course, would know her. I feel like if you're seeing Terrifier 2, you're a fan of the first movie anyways. So yeah, seeing her in the mid-credit scene was awesome. Can't wait for her to come back. Can't wait to see what she does. So I think the world of Terrifier, the universe of Terrifier, is just going to get bigger and badder. And it makes me excited for Terrifier 3 because I feel like Terrifier 2 is really just building up for something even bigger. It was the introduction of Sienna and Jonathan. It was just that build up. So by the time we get to Terrifier 3, I think it's just going to get more deep into story and more characters are going to be introduced, more better kills than 2 and 1. And, you know, some people will say that the whole mashed potato kill will top Don's kill. I don't know. I still think Don's kill is the most gruesome in the 2 movies so far, but yeah, it's just a fun ride. That's really what these Terrifier movies are. I'm a fan of both of them. I can't wait to get Terrifier 3. And for those of you who aren't into really bloody, really gory type movies, definitely don't go see Terrifier 2. Now, for a horror fan like me who watches horror all the time, if you're a big slasher fan and you're all about practical effects and really bloody kills in your horror movies, you're going to love Terrifier 2. But for someone who doesn't watch these movies a lot and they don't watch, I would call this a hardcore slasher because of how brutal the kills are. So if you're not used to that stuff, then you should probably not watch this movie. Especially if you have a weak stomach, because, yeah, you probably would throw up. For me personally, I don't see how people are, but, you know, if you're not used to it, it'll definitely get to you. So that's my warning to people who haven't seen Terrifier 2. Just be cautious before you see it, because it's a brutal movie. But that's what makes it so good, honestly. I love the kills in this movie. It's so... Art the Clown is unstoppable, and I love it. So I can't wait till Terrifier 3. I'm ready to see him kill some more people. And on top of all this, I'm a huge slasher fan, so this theatrical experience for me was so good. I have not seen a movie this brutal on the big screen ever, so it's something I'll always remember. It was really fun. It was sort of a crowded theater, so that made it better as well. There was a few reactions here and there, but it was a fun time. Had a great time seeing it in the theaters. It's a blast. I give Terrifier 2 a 10 out of 10, just like the first one, because being such a slasher fan, these movies are so 80s. I mean, a lot of the 80s slasher movies that we love don't have heavy stories. They don't have much of a plot. We watch them to enjoy the kills and a certain character. And sometimes, yes, a final girl, but like overall, a lot of the slasher movies that we watch and we love from the 80s are the same as these Terrifier movies. There's not a lot there. And that's what makes this so good. It kind of takes us back to the 80s. This modern day generation can kind of go back to that feel with these movies. And that's why I love Terrifier. I think they're really good movies. They're probably the best slasher movies we're getting now. Probably will ever get. I don't think anything will top Terrifier. It's going to go down, I guess I should say, as probably one of the best slasher franchises of all time. Because let's be honest, this is probably going to be more than a trilogy. If it isn't, then it's going to be known as probably one of the best horror slasher trilogies ever. Really, really have so much fun with these movies, honestly. They're so good. If you haven't seen them, check them out if you're a slasher fan and you're into really brutal slasher movies. But that's my review for Terrifier 2 and small spoiler discussion. I just wanted to get on here and talk about it because it's such a good time. Let me know what you guys think of Terrifier 2 in the comment section down below. If you guys did enjoy this podcast, please leave a like and subscribe. That would help me out a lot. And I will hopefully hear from you guys very soon.